business is your business. It's all up in my lady business with me, Mary Nisi. Welcome to All Up in My Lady Business. Once again, I have my partner in crime, Melissa Riddle, in the co-pilot seat today.
Hello.
Thanks for taking time out of your afternoon to come and rap with me, cut it up and spin it around. We are recording this the week before Christmas.
That's right.
Here in Chicagoland, and I am not feeling very jolly this year. How is your jolly factor going?
I mean, my jolly factor is always diminished. The holidays are not necessarily my favorite time of year for many reasons, just whatever. They've improved since Making a Person and having a target for sort of the, get to see somebody else be super happy is enjoyable. But still the obligatory spending and, all of that stuff kind of weighs me down. I famously have this refrain about millennials fix it. And now I think I need to move on to another generation.
Millennials fix what?
Just, it's my hope was that these sort of traditional obligation things would kind of come out of our culture or whatever because of younger generations. And that was sort of the millennials fix it came out of that. Thinking okay, well, it's clear that mine's not going to deal with this dumb thing, but maybe millennials will.
Oh.
Now I feel like I have to even go past millennials to even younger.
The Gen
Zers potentially to kind of cleanse us of some of this stuff that's just antiquated and not that helpful. And Christmas is one of those things.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's I don't know if millennials can necessarily fix it, but I think that it's funny you say the millennials fix it because I actually think millennials kind of made things harder. I like to think of social media as millennials' revenge for causing the crash in 2008 that basically made it so that, commerce has not been the same since that first, or no, it wasn't the first, but the one that really impacted us, the recession of 2008. And so they there were no jobs. And so that was when social media was coming out and they're like, oh, we're going to make it complicated and hard and things that older people can't figure out. So they have to hire us to do this thing that only they can do well.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I was thinking more just on the level of getting rid of these sort of imposed things that feel like they've.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that.
Generate.
I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying what millennials did bad for us, but they didn't. It was just a reaction to the fact that there were no jobs.
I guess we all, even our generation, messed some things up. I don't know. I don't think about us that much anymore. But yeah, the end of year stuff and sort of all of this kind of what do they call it? Post-mortem of the year and thinking about all of the, many, many successes that we had and, the things that still feel like, how do businesses survive when they have to dig out from kind of the heaviness of bureaucracy and compliance and.
It's very expensive. I feel like I feel like life in general is very expensive for everybody. I don't think you can have a very cheap life anymore.
No cheap life.
No. I feel like it's so hard. You have to have a cell phone, and I'm God, I took my glasses off, and I feel like my face just went. Putting those back on, so you don't have to see that. What was I saying?
Cheap life.
Cheap life. Yeah, you don't you have to have a cell phone, and that's $70. When I was a 20-year-old, electric bills were $30, and in the winter, the worst it would get was $100, and that was bananas. It feels you can't, everything's expensive. We have been going over all of our books and everything and trying to get everything ready for the next year, kind of looking at what happened and what didn't. And just the amount of money that I have to spend on dumb stuff and I don't own anything anymore either. I don't own my QuickBooks, my QuickBooks is all online. And if the cloud goes down, my books go with it.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. It's I have all these different softwares I have to use to process everything. It's so expensive.
Yeah. lots of subscriptions and stuff. And, Matt and I were kind of talking about this the other day, just like how, like, the idea of a subscription, is relatively young, in the arc of capitalism.
Mhm.
And how, so it like just took hold so completely, right?
Mhm.
That, like what you're describing of just even, how we consume entertainment. It used to just be magazines, the only thing we
Mhm.
subscribed to was like
Yeah.
whatever. The news.
There were no, like, boxes of crafts that showed up every 4 months or whatever. And, but it also, like, it's like all these little things that every time I say, "It used to be like this," I feel like I sound like an old person that's like, "Everything was better when I was young," and
Different.
I and it was different. It was different, but I do feel like a lot of the things that the technology has done is to replace people and, to make it so you don't and, for some smaller businesses where, you can't afford to have an IT person or have a HR person or have any other, 2-letter disciplines in your orbit. I was reading an article about I don't remember what, but basically, like, the plastics, the rise of plastics came out of during World War II when we made all of these factories to make bombs and stuff. Like, after the war was over and they didn't have to make bombs anymore, they're like, "Well, we have this factory. What are we gonna do with it?" And basically, that's where, like, the plastics of it all was like, "Well, maybe we can use it." There's this all we have different all these scientists that came over after the Nazis got they came over and kind of developed all these new products around plastics and all these other things that it's like we created the plastic problem because we had these giant factories, and instead of just realizing like, okay, we can just shut them down and do something else, they had to like figure out something else to do with them. And now we have this plastics problem. I mean, maybe it's probably way more complicated than that, but it does ring like that could be there's
Yeah,
some truth in that.
I think so. I think we talk about this frequently because it comes up so often and whatever, is this idea of like industries propping up industries and like the lobbyists of those
Mhm.
industries, like the tape industry, waiting for the holidays when that, people consume, a whole bunch of tape, preventing us from coming up with a better way to wrap gifts. Just how like the
Mhm.
innovation has such a hard time grabbing hold because there's so many forces trying to keep the status quo because there's so many industries that benefit from nothing changing, and that drives me endlessly crazy.
Well, especially when you look at some place like China that I feel like we are fed a lot of like anti-China, like, you know,
Definitely. I mean, since
because
I was like, sending letters to our representatives about Tibet, you know?
oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, in terms of their, like, human rights issues. But
Exactly.
I think but on the positive side of things, I think there are some things like, they very are heavily investing in renewables right now.
Mhm.
And they're trying to make it so that they are completely off anything fossil related by, like, 2030. And,
Yeah.
like and they're, like, on the way. Like, they're and, like, they're actively trying to make things, like, better and easier and future proofing them, and then we're like, "No, there's 5 rich guys that make money off of the remaining coal that is at the center of the earth." And so instead of, like, being like, "Sorry, rich guys, you either have to, like, innovate or," you know I mean, what's the buggy whip? Buggy whips were like a thing everybody had to have, and then the second the cars were made, the buggy whip, was no longer necessary, and that guy, like, had to find a new job.
It's gotta invest in, I mean, again, we're trying to solve the world's problems here on a podcast, but like, putting I think the idea that if your industry is like technology replaces your industry with a bigger, better, idea or whatever it is that like that just means you're done or you have no, expertise anymore. Like obviously there are other countries that when a primary industry or a utility or whatever it is that exists, it goes by the wayside or the expertise changes, you educate the same people to do the next thing. It's like I guess you have to be, willing and able to um take that education on and whatever, but like that's where I wish, when it comes to these guys with all of these gajillion gajillion dollars. It's like we could fix these problems by training a workforce to do the thing that is the better thing instead of just holding on to the past until our, nails bleed.
It's the difference between like capitalism and commerce. Like it's like, I mean, and all this kind of stems back to, in Reagan, who ruined the world, in my opinion. But he changed the tax rate. Like the tax rate used to be 90% for like the corporate tax rate was 90%. And that was graduated. Like it wasn't like if you make a gazillion dollars, it's all taxed at 90%. It's like the first 100,000 is taxed at 30 and the next millions taxed. It's like it goes up. So it's not like I think everyone hears that they're like, oh God, that's not true. Or that would have been it's like, no, it was graduated. If I was getting taxed at a 90% rate, it would very much behoove me to reinvest in my company.
Mhm.
You know, open other locations so you can employ more people or pay everybody better because they are you've got all this money, and that's how like minimum wage goes up, and that's how we wind up becoming we wind up progressing as a society is because we're taking that money and putting it back into the business, the like thing that made it possible for you to make money in the first place. And I get it, I'm like the owner of a company, like I'm the man or whatever, but like I have been very much forced to invest all of my money back into the company because I'm at this weird sweet spot where I make enough money to like be a comfortable person, but I'm not buying a second house. I'm not buying a Rolls Royce. I'm not, I'm able to afford the life that I have.
I mean, it's basically just there's this, I guess, diminishing returns, at some point in growth and like
Hmm.
the amount that you have to invest financially or time or labor or hiring or all of the different things that are required for growth. It's like, if I have to spend this much to make this much, but then I also have to do all of these other things in order to take that step, then, is that what I want? Is it even worth it? When I had my own business, that was definitely a major contributor to me deciding just to move on because as a single op, person, you obviously have a huge limitation on how much you can do because you're one person and you only have the time that you have. But to grow, even adding one person requires just an onslaught of, like I said, compliance and,
Hmm.
all of that stuff, that major investment. It's like nearly impossible to do it.
Hmm.
Is it, just like floored at the people that are, able to build a business that's beyond just themselves because
Well,
it's,
yeah, I mean, and I think that if I were to try to start Toast and Jam now, it would be I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. I feel like I kind of was doing this at a time when, like, I mean, first of all, it's like I think about the internet and I'm like, well, my job couldn't, at least the way I'm doing it, would not be able to be, wouldn't have been possible. Like, um,
to do
if
it
like,
on the up and up, completely.
yeah, I mean, well, the internet of it all made it possible for me to like easily download music.
Mhm.
And, I could email people and I could I was able to, the internet makes it easier to like find people and whatnot. So like, and I was in like this nascent, 2003, 2004, when I was like beginning to DJ weddings and things. It's like, there was a lot of change technology wise that made it possible. But when I started Toast and Jam, like everybody in this industry, and still does in the wedding industry, almost everybody's a 1099. I think we've covered this a million times. And so it was really easy for me to add employees because there was no real onboarding. It was like they gave me their social security number and filled out a W-9. And that was, the extent of my, I didn't have to get them insurance. I didn't have to onboard them. I didn't have to get them into payroll. I just was like, it's like they would come, they would work, I would write them, they would give me an invoice, which was just a piece of paper that had their name, the date of the event, and then the amount that I was paying them. And then I would pay them. And it was really easy to bring people in. We never had, I mean, I had insurance and I had, I had some marketing expenses and things like that. And it made it really easy then for me to be more generous with the DJs and you'll be able to give, even though it wasn't legal, like as I found out when I got audited, to give them bonuses. Like you can't give bonuses to subcontractors. That changes the nature of the relationship. And it made it possible for me to like rent boats and, take people out and have parties. And we could go out for drinks after weddings and I would buy everybody drinks because I had the money for that. And it was great. And I loved it. And it was super fun. And it was the best. And, and I don't know. It's like I had enough money to live on and that was good. Like I didn't need much more than that. And then when everybody got made, employees in 2017, it's like all of a sudden, like, because I was the canary in the coal mine on workers' comp. That was I always bring up workers' comp is the worst. Like it is the absolute worst. And it's like, and we wouldn't even really need workers' comp if we had subsidized healthcare. I think about all the things that would just go away. Like if we had subsidized healthcare, because if we had subsidized healthcare, we wouldn't have to worry about whose fault it was that an accident happened. The accident happened, and like that could be covered by the legal side of things could be covered differently. Like if you were
Yeah.
negligent or whatever,
The
that's
actual
that's a
payment for
different. But the actual like injury that happened to somebody, and like they're saying, well, this happened. Like whenever I have had injuries on my body, like when I got physical rehab or whatever, I always get all these letters from the insurance company like, how did you get this injury? Was it work? Was it they're always trying to find a way for them to not cover it. And anyway, so like getting workers' comp, it's like when I made them employees, like I had to pay the highest rate. That first year, my workers' comp policy cost me $26,000. So like all of a sudden, just from 2016 to 2017, like that is 3 boat parties right there. Like, well, maybe it's 2 boat parties. Those were pretty expensive, but the thing is the boat parties, like, I'm sure people would be like, there's some people like, I'd rather have money than the boat party. Sure. I get it. But I also feel like the boat parties were like, we never got to see each other really all that much. This was like morale boosting and we got to be around each other and have fun times.
Why
And
you
like,
have a holiday party and you don't have, just here's $60 or something
yeah,
like that. Like there's
I would,
non-monetary benefit to
yeah, to like me
getting
showing them how
together,
much I appreciate them. And
eating
I could,
tacos.
yeah, and I could take the boat money and I could buy myself a Hyundai or something with that money, or a down payment on a Hyundai. I don't know.
Infrastructure is expensive.
Well,
Compliance is expensive.
and it's not that I don't want to be in compliance, but it does feel like all of the compliance that I am in is because of the bad behavior of other businesses before me. Like I'm paying for the mistakes of other, like of other business owners that haven't been ethical or, didn't want to, own up for mistakes that they've made. And I'm not saying that I am perfect and I have done everything correctly, but I've always tried. Like my heart's always in the right place. I'm never thinking like, how can I fuck over these DJs and pay them $50 less so I don't have to, like that's never part of my calculus. My calculus is like, and nobody knows and nobody cares. No one cares about the things I have to deal with. And I mean, honestly, I barely care about the shit that I have to care about because I am angry about it. When I made them employees, I was like, well, now I can give them some kind of benefit. They're like, like I can at least try to make this, like they get something for making them employees because no one could really see the value of it. Like when I did it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'll give them a 401k. I've stolen the youth of so many of these people. And at that time I had like 6 or 7 DJs that were only working for me. And so unless they had their own IRA or something, they weren't saving. And not that I should necessarily make that my business, but I was making it my business. Like I was like, well, I'll pay to do a 401k. Well, it's expensive to manage that alone. And then I can't really match it because it would be so expensive for me to match it that I would be, I shouldn't be having to require, it's one of those, why do we do like retirement this way too? It's like weird that we even put that through businesses too, but
You'll fix it. Not going to happen.
But my point is that I had, it's like I try to do this nice thing by having a 401k and it's super expensive and I can't be as generous as I want to be. And I feel like I get kind of dogged for that because I don't do that. And it's like, well, I'm trying to do something because I can't do healthcare. I could do healthcare for full-time employees, but the part-time, especially, you have to be working every single pay period or be on some kind of, paid leave.
A very, like you could argue that the entire business is a seasonal business, like just so much that's different about how this type of business runs that, again, we're always just trying to, um, figure out where we fit. What do we have to do in order to be, on the up and up? And even that, requires investment, requires time, requires expertise, time,
Mhm.
all of those things to, to sort of make happen. And, even just like this past couple of weeks with the resources for, sexual harassment training and
Mhm.
bystander training, obviously something we believe in wholeheartedly is needed and should be required, but it's like held hostage by money as well. Like you either have to pay out to,
A third party.
organization to manage it for you at, the cost of, I think we, figured out some like
It's like
over
$25 per wait,
over
what?
$100 per person because you have to do the two different trainings
Mhm.
and then pay for the time to take the training. And then, those were the two, but then there's two of the trainings, the bystander and the sexual
Yeah.
harassment. So
So it was gonna cost me like over 2 grand to well over 2 grand to make everybody compliance for a problem that most likely we wouldn't like.
if
I
anything, we need
mean,
sexual harassment for drunk people on dance.
that's the thing, and that's like the sad thing is that like the our DJs are barely around each other, and I think all
We have to have a boat party
you had to
to
have a boat party, but even those were mostly women. Back in the day, I only had like one male employee. But I do feel like, like you have to take sexual harassment training because a lot of, and I'm going to assume this, I'm sure some of my, but I'm assuming it's men who do the majority of the harassing. I'm
we
going
can
to just
we can
go out on
operate.
a limb there. And so basically the sexual harassment and the bystander training, like that's all there because men can't behave. So instead of like saying, "Hey guys, quit making it hard to exist in the world," we're like, "Well, let's give training so that we have got plausible deniability if something bad happens, and we can say, well, they watched the sexual harassment video, so you know we don't have any complicity here in the whole thing."
And we're not volunteering that information, that structure to anyone to have who wants it. We're going to force you to pay a premium on the training so that people can have the information. So it's just completely insane. And Chicago, offers the like some version of a free training, but it's bureaucratic. You have to apply at a certain amount of time. You have to get approved. Everything is just a big, uh, I want to say circle jerk,
No, I would
of
say circle jerk.
of, and then the whole thing is like, why should this information cost money? Like, why
Hmm.
is this not something that we just provide to anybody who wants to know how
Capitalism.
to sexually harass someone
Yeah.
or know how to intervene in a situation that is both safe for the person who's being harassed and for the person who's intervening? Why does that have to come at a premium? I mean, I know capitalism is the answer, but it's just so frustrating that this isn't just available and that everybody agrees and everybody takes the same one. So we all know that this is the gold standard for how, what the expectations are instead of having the, llama something or another version of the training and the gusto version of the training and the me.
City of Chicago and the state of Illinois and then the federal version of it. Like and it's because it's the capitalism. It's not the commerce. It's not like the federal government or the government in general that is being like, hey guys, we're going to provide all this to you and make it easy so that like none of us have a
Yeah.
reason why we don't know this.
And
And
your people are sexually harassed.
yeah. And, it's like I think about, like, I keep getting these notifications from the Illinois Department tax, like my tax Illinois. I keep getting these, like this past like 3 weeks, I've gotten an email almost every day. And it's like, log in and look at this and see that you've done this thing. And then I log in and I don't thoroughly understand it, but it seems like I've done it, but I keep getting the notifications anyway. And today I finally, like, I was going through the letter and so during COVID, they were allowing people to go on unemployment, like
Mhm.
when lockdown first happened. And all my DJs were employees. And so I had to put them all on unemployment, which whatever, like I
Again,
had it. I was grateful that I was able to give them something that was able to make their lives at least somewhat easier, especially considering our job were completely eliminated. But the cool thing is that prior to COVID, my unemployment rate was at the lowest possible because I'd never used it. like no one had ever used so I'd had unemployment from 2017 until 2020, never used it. No one had ever used the
Mhm.
unemployment. Everybody goes on unemployment, and my rate went from being 0.04% or something to 4%. And so, and it's exactly like how insurance works, where, if you don't have any claims for a certain amount of time, your rate goes down. And so my rate was going down and my rate was going down. But it shouldn't have risen in the first place. They shouldn't have made my rating go up because of something that I had no control over. Uh, and so today I get this letter and it's like, it was like letting me know that it looks like it's going down again. But then there's all these things like, if you want to protest this, and I'm like, wait, is this a good thing that's happening or a bad? Like, I can't even tell if what's happening is good or bad. I don't know if it's something I should be protesting.
Pro
And it's so labyrinthine, and there's no one to explain it to. And then if I do finally go, okay, I want someone to, if I do call the Department of Labor, first of all, getting to a human is next to impossible. And then
Mhm.
when you finally get to someone, they are so condescending and so just like they can't deal with this phone call. Like, it's like, well, don't you know your experience number? Well, why don't you know this? I mean, you used it. You used it. So why don't you think you should have to use it? Or you should have to, and it's like, I feel like someone's yelling at me, and because I'm stupid, because I don't understand the labyrinthine. I didn't get into this business to understand unemployment insurance.
Sure. I mean, I get that no one does. I guess it's just really, again, it's one of these things where everything props up everything else, even if it doesn't need, to be as labyrinthine as it is. It's like even just, navigating this whole property tax thing that so many people are embroiled in, recently is just like there's just so many ancillary industries that, rely on people not knowing,
Hmm.
basically, and then reaching out, hoping for expertise or hoping for assistance. And some people can finance that, and some people just get, scooped up in it and have to hope for the best and hope that they have a way to pay for things. It's
Well,
just
the property tax of it all is really is really annoying because I mean, especially like in Chicagoland, tax dollars pay for the schools, and so it's like
another
you,
fun thing.
yeah, uh, and it's not like when your taxes go up, you get like, I would be fine with paying more in taxes if it meant that I was getting more things for it.
Or I got an itemized list, of what that increase was covering, right?
Or I could vote on how it's spent. That's what I would really like to do.
I
Is I
mean,
would really
isn't
I
that the theory that, if you choose the people who are going to make the decisions about how money gets spent by voting
that's the
for them?
thing. They're not, though. They vote. The thing is that I feel like that this is the hard thing, the hard truth about, we've gotten so far away from the intentions of these things, and which is especially clear to me because I've been watching the American Revolution documentary by Ken Burns on PBS. And really, it's like nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. It is bananas how everything, we're on 100-year cycle. Everything just keeps repeating itself every 100 years. Like, as soon as the person who was like the last person who was alive at the beginning of the 100-year cycle
Right.
dies, we
Yep.
just start it all over again.
Yep. Hit the reset.
Um, I mean, but I do think that you don't own anything really. The property taxes are there. Like, I bought this like little like DJ, like this little like, it's like a little, it's right over there. I could find it, but it's like a little tiny DJ rig. Like, it's like the size of like, it's actually smaller than my keyboard, and it's just a 2-channel little guy and I got it because I was like, oh, this would be fun for like ceremonies, or it'd
Mhm.
be good for like when I'm like, I can plug it into my computer and then I don't have to get my whole rig out to like set
Yeah.
cue points or
Yeah.
like, get songs ready to be played out in the world. And you have to have a subscription to a different Serato. So like, it's like with Serato, which is the DJ software that we use or I use. It's like the software is free, but you have to buy a piece of machinery to make it work.
Mhm.
Okay, but the software is free. With this, you buy the piece of machinery and you also have a subscription. It only works with Serato Lite. It doesn't work with Serato regular. So there's another software I have to pay for to make this thing work. That should be illegal. That
Yes.
should be illegal. That
Yeah.
should be illegal. Like,
Yeah.
it's like nobody really owns anything.
No.
And I think I need a revolution. I really want a revolution.
Nothing makes sense. Nothing
Mhm.
makes sense. Like It's so hard, like in my job, my sort of default setting, I guess, in communicating basically anything, whether it's to a client or to one of the DJs, anyone on our staff is like, first I can run it through my logic filter and it makes sense to me. Then I know how to communicate around it. I know how like to say what I mean because it has passed the test of like even if it was like a price increase, things that are painful, that you don't want to, as long as you can sort of find the way to make that change logical to people, it doesn't hurt as much. There's
Mhm.
understanding. And I feel like things are so painful right now because logic has completely flown the coop, you
Mhm.
know? Like you
Left the
can't
chat.
hear anything and feel like, "Oh, yeah, completely. I get it."
Or that the thing is happening, like, because it's gonna ultimately make everything better for everybody,
Sure, yeah,
you
and
know?
people are willing to make, sacrifices when there's purpose, but yeah, their logic and purpose, I don't if somebody told me when I go to the grocery store that this is a great sidebar story that's somewhat related because I was about to bring in corn, uh to talk about corn, like for farmers,
It's
like the
corn.
more for corn because it was going to make, families in the corn belt, do better than like, and I knew that that's
Wait, what? Wait, start over. Wait,
happening.
what?
But
Start over.
okay, well, let's go back to, so one of my favorite little local spots is the patio. Do you guys have the patio? Do you know what the patio is? I guess it's more of a Western suburbs thing, but it's this great chain that I don't know how to adequately describe. It's somewhere between like fast casual sort of Panera, get a number, sit down place, but local and cool. And they do so. Like what I had last night was a barbecued pulled turkey taco, which was freaking fabulous. Okay. But they do like, like a half chicken, sort of maybe like a Boston market, but not on like the level of Boston market, but it's huge. And you pay and you sit down, whatever. And it's really cute. So there's one in Lombard and I love it. And they have lots of gluten-free options, which is why I also like it. But it's not super expensive. Anyway, Evelyn got a hot dog plain. And one of the side options was either a piece of corn on the cob or fries. And so she picked corn, but she also wanted fries. And so I got her an order of fries and cheese sauce because she is a cheese sauce aholic. Um, and then we go and sit down, and then they bring it to us, and there's no cheese sauce and there's no corn. And so I was going to walk back up and I hadn't gotten a receipt because I generally don't get a receipt because it just is a waste of resources, right? I'm paying what I'm paying. Why do I need a document
Mhm.
of it? I'm not balancing a checkbook. And so then I caught the lady who brought the food to the table and I said, we're missing corn and cheese sauce. And she was like, okay, let me, check on this. And then she came back to the table and she's like, do you have your receipt? And I was like, no, I didn't have one printed. And then she's like, okay, so she leaves again. And then she comes back with the cheese sauce, but no corn. And then they weren't going to give us corn. Like the corn wasn't happening. And so I was,
Because you couldn't prove that you bought
because I
it?
couldn't prove that I bought the corn, but also I was like, they're throwing out gallons of corn at the end of the night, uneaten corn on the cob because everyone's getting fries. No one's getting corn. The corn is not like the thing. And it was just so like, I don't know, I guess a representation of just how tight, everything is on every level,
Mhm.
every business. It's like, and you're trying to make decisions like, I'm not going to make you print out a receipt so that your overhead for paper is reduced, but then I have to be able to prove that I didn't get the thing you said I bought that I told you I wanted to buy at the point of transaction.
And then also the concept of like, hey, we or even if they were like, hey, we went back and went into the computer and saw that you didn't get corn.
Mhm.
Do you want it? Because we didn't charge you for it.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yeah.
or like, hey, here's the corn now. Keep your receipt in the future. Like there's so many and it like and the thing is it doesn't endear you to the place.
It's just it puts you through this like just analysis of like what just happened here.
Yeah. Where it's
Like
almost like they're like accusing you of trying to like, well, I'm not going to say I want the
your
corn, but
corn,
then I'm going
my
to,
child. And then it's a niblet,
yeah,
whatever
it's
they
a
call those
half.
things.
It's a
It's
half. Yeah,
half most.
you're not getting a full cob. Not getting
Most
a full cob.
half a corn here. And also my kid picked a vegetable.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna poo poo on that, even though it's just
Yeah.
here, but
It's
whatever.
got the juice. It's got the juice.
It sure does. It's a national treasure. But anyway, back to the main point, which is that I would be happy to pay, when I could for these, extra things. And then I guess just like we talk about death by a thousand cuts in the office in the context of like all of these kind of subscription things that build up and then all of them cumulatively rob us of true growth and profit often. That we just like even having to have like a moral conversation with myself about whether or not to round up to contribute to St. Jude's or whatever, just like everywhere I go, or the analysis of whether or not I'm a bad person because I don't tip for a service that doesn't require anything for anybody to do anything additional for me.
That it drives me bananas. Drives me
But
bananas. I hate
it's
it.
just an onslaught. It's so everywhere. And then you just kind of wonder, I don't know, like this is, happening within the business. It's happening every time you leave the house. Like, and I don't know, I guess it contributes to me not wanting to ever leave the house or go anywhere.
Yeah. Last night I went to there's a really fun organization here in Evanston called the Pink Poster Club, which is like
Pink Poster Club.
it's very and they we threw that. So a couple of weeks ago I DJ'd a Melissa knows this, but I'm going to tell this for the Gen Pop that I DJ'd I got back from Thanksgiving and was just feeling sad and gross about the world. And a friend of mine was like, "What if we did a fundraiser really quickly at the next month for something?" And we in 2.5 weeks we pulled together. I was going to DJ at the American Legion, which is like it's like attached to a golf course here in Evanston, and sold 80 tickets, and I was able to donate almost $3,000 to a homeless shelter that it was really fun. Anyway, the Pink Poster Club co-hosted it with me, and they are an organization that they try to amplify like things are going with ICE, and they helping, like it started off with like a post, like making posters for a protest, and it's just kind of turned into this bigger thing. Last night they had a meetup at a brewery here in Evanston, and when I got paid, when I was closing out my tab, and the server was like, "Oh, there's already 20% on here," and it gave you the opportunity to give more money. And I was like, first of all, that's great that they automatically add the tip in, so I don't have to think about it. And I'm glad that they told me. But it was also like, do I look bad if I don't give her more? Like I had this like, like is she expecting me to give more even though I've already done 20%, and I didn't, and then I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, should
Yes.
I have given more? Was I supposed to give more on a like $11 tab? Like it wasn't even like.
It definitely stays with you. I don't know what the cumulative, mental effect of all of this sort of, I guess there's just sort of this lack of consensus, in the world right now about what's reasonable, who needs things, versus what's just out there, like as an option. It's like you you weren't usually confronted with the option to tip somebody in a drive-through, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
past. And then no one has really come up to say like that this is here are the criteria. There's no etiquette or general consensus around things anymore. I never worked in restaurants, so the idea of being paid, a very low hourly wage because you were dependent on a tip is something that I only know anecdotally from being in the world and not ever having to kind of depend on that or understand how that structure works. You knew that you tipped when you went to a restaurant and you tipped your server. You knew that. Like everybody knows that. And you're a bad person if you don't. Because it's, I guess, kind of optional, but it's just very much baked into the world that
Yeah, I mean, it's
we
you're
operate.
relying upon everybody being a part of, like, we all agreed that
Yes.
we give 20%, Like it
Yeah.
used to be 10% was for
Yeah.
okay service,
Yep.
20% was if they did a really good job, and anything more than that was.
Yeah.
And for the most part, when you are waiting tables, most people understand that. So, and some people are going to give you more and some people are going to give you less. So, like when I waited tables, I knew I would make it like back when I was waiting tables at Wishbone, I would make like for lunch, I would make $90. Like it was like, and sometimes I would make like
Seinfeld.
120 if I had some, wait, what?
The Jerry Seinfeld, like the even Steven, of it all. Like you get a loss here, you
Yeah.
get a gain here, and just no matter what, like it always kind of we had that with like our grocery bill. It didn't really matter like what we did. It was always $160.
Yeah.
Give or take, five more, five less. And we would just be baffled because nothing went into it to make it that, week after
Yeah.
week after week. But it always was. That was a
Yeah.
long time ago.
And so anyway, when I would wait tables, I would get, I would make my rough amount, and I always made that much amount. And that was fine because that worked. I mean, everybody understood it. But I feel like with like tipping on a situation where the person is like, and I think everybody knows that servers were making, I was making like $2.17 at the time
Sure.
that I was waiting tables. And I think now minimum wage is like for for servers is like $5 an hour or something. They just raised it in Evanston to $15 an hour. But anyway, tipping on servers where they're getting paid ostensibly a a regular hourly
Yeah.
is difficult for me to like, like you are getting paid to do this. Like when I was waiting tables, I wasn't getting paid. Like I literally was at the, like relying upon everybody understanding the social contract that you're supposed to pay for that and having to pay more. I mean, I wonder how much money I've spent this year on tipping on things that I never used to tip on.
It's hard to even like process, and that's I think where like you don't even know because there is such a lack of consensus around it. You don't even I wouldn't even know how to even go about figuring that out because from one minute to the next, like I feel like, okay, yes, I'm going to do this now. No, I'm not going to do this. I don't even know what my own criteria, for saying yes or no is.
Or even or even like what's assumed by the server. Our office for those is located in Logan Square across the street from Bang Bang Pie,
The
and we go there a lot to get various things, and it's like I feel like I have to tip there because I see them so often, which you would actually think would be like the opposite. Like, oh, I see you all the time, so I tip you every fifth transaction, but I don't feel like I can do that. I feel like I have to tip every time, and so it's like. And they're not doing anything more than just asking me a question and then handing me something. Like it's not,
Yeah.
and it makes me say things that sound miserly or Scroogey, where I'm like, it's like, but it's, an extra $2 here, an extra $3 there. I mean, I guarantee you, in a week, I probably, tip out $50
Yeah. I think
on
that's
shit
fair.
that I never used to tip on.
Yeah. I was thinking about, how this sort of intersects with like DJ performance and stuff like that. When again, these are kind of industries where gratuity is normal, right? Or has always sort of existed as a norm is that you would, tip somebody for an excellent performance above and beyond the base rate of the service. And I guess there's a world now where I'm kind of like, are the DJs getting sort of pulled into this lack of clarity,
Mm-hmm.
like where, maybe they're seeing less, gratuity or less expectation that they're going to get that tip.
Well, I actually think they're getting tipped more
Okay.
than I
Curious.
used to. Like, and
Mhm.
I do think they are, to the point where I've had some DJs like complain to me about like, not getting tipped.
Mhm.
And it's like, it used to be, once again, like back when I was DJing all the time, when I was doing like 60, 70 weddings a year, like I would say like, I used to get tipped like every third wedding,
Okay.
like it would be, like every third or fourth wedding. And sometimes it would be like a sweaty $20 bill that they just put in my hand. And we're like, oh my God, that was the best night of my life. I cannot believe how good this was. Here's 20 American dollars. And they'd be like, and I'd be like, all right, cool. Now I'm, this covers my coffees for the next 2 days. Like I don't. And then sometimes I would get handed an envelope before I even walked in as I'd walk in the door that had $400 in it, and I hadn't done anything,
Yeah.
and I was going to go on and do
Sure.
amazing things for those
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
So but I think now it's a little bit more like assumed you're going to get it. So when like, it's the grumbling that like, oh, I haven't gotten tipped in a while. It's like, you know, it was sort of like a bummer. And now it's like almost like angry if you don't get a tip.
Sure. I mean, I think that's kind of the thing that I guess matters in all of this analysis is like the expectation and how you frame your life and what you're capable of doing based on what you're assuming you're going to get and then what the consequences are if you don't get it. When there's always that sort of optional will you, won't you, kind of out in the ether, like I think in industries where, tipping is definitely like, waiters or whatever, it's just sort of imagine like if people are getting tipping fatigue, as it were, like are they experiencing, a loss of income or whatever because they um, can't expect as much as they used to anymore because they used to be the only industry or one of the few industries where that was the understood, transaction between service provider and receiver. So I don't know. I guess I just like being somebody who's on a stable,
Yeah.
cycle of being paid. Like, does make you wonder about the people out there in the world who were those few industries and how it's affecting those industries when now everyone has their hand up to kind of participate in that.
Well, and the life has gotten so much more expensive too. I mean, if these electric bills are like affecting me to the point where I can only imagine if you're living in like a drafty, apartment that has shitty windows and
Badly.
isn't badly insulated, which is like everything I lived in up until I moved into my first condo, like when I was 30. Like every place I lived in was a drafty nightmare and our electric and gas bills were out of control. But out of control meaning they were $75 versus $30. Like it's like if I had the office, our electric bill last month was 400 and something, which is what?
Yeah.
Like, I kinda wanna look at that because 'cause I'm like, "Why is it $400?" But is that because of the data centers that are hogging all of our energy and everything's gone up, or were we using more of it? Was it more expensive? Like, I don't even know.
Are we just, leaving doors open and it's drafty and the heat's just, having a hard time keeping up? Who knows? I do still have weatherproof the office on my list. I haven't done
Sure.
it.
I wasn't saying that to make
I
you
know you
weatherproof the
are.
office
I know
faster,
you
but
are.
it's more thinking about, like, the people that are trying to just live in, like, a cheaper life, like, a more frugal life, and it's, like, it's not even really an option anymore. But I don't think that wages have really kept up with that either. It's because we've been artificially suppressing minimum wage because the rich people don't reinvest in their businesses. And they're not buying, lights, and they're not. I mean, not everyone buys lights to beef their business up, but I feel like I'm always kind of reinvesting my money into the business and trying to make things better for everybody. But then
Yeah. I
whatever.
as, the one often sort of taking your amazing intention and ideas and figuring out ways to help them be birthed into our
Hmm.
little
You're
world.
my idea doula. Is that what you
Yeah,
are?
I am your idea doula. I
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm always trying to
Oh,
into last night
doula.
just kind of end on a high note. So yeah, I'm always making up crazy mashups. It's like the first
Portmanteaus are your favorite thing in the world.
they're my favorite thing in the world, but they're also just like my brain's default setting is to like hear syllables and then think how we could incorporate these syllables into a more efficient and also humorous
Hmm.
situation. And last night we were out and about, and somebody, well, Evelyn pointed this out, and I will read it to you, but I'm also going to show it to you. It's a
Oh,
charcuterie. It's a charcuterie.
that's pretty cute.
And I immediately was like, somebody's out there doing the good work.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, so Taylor Swift has the docuseries that is coming out around this time. They released 2 episodes last week, and then they're kind of parsing them out. But anyway, last Saturday I had my friends from my group chat, the Showgirls. We got together to watch the episodes, and we made Taylor Swift themed food. And my friend Shaska made an egg dish that we called Fresh Out the Scramble,
Mm.
which is like fresh out the slammer. And then there's Eversmores. Michelle made Eversmores, and she also made Death by a Thousand Biscuits.
Okay.
And I made a fruit salad that I called Master Rind. Uh, so does that fall underneath your funny portmanteau of it
Yeah,
all?
punny sort of things, yes.
The
I love
death by a thousand biscuits kind of ruined me. Like I died. It was like the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Ruined, destroyed. I feel like this episode's been just us kind of
it's
collectively bitching about
yeah,
capitalism.
I mean, but also, sort of poking at, like, how do we, ask the hard questions and do,
I don't
like,
know what to do
make
with it. It's like
things.
it's hard because it's like that whole parable of like the fisherman who gets told he should, start a business and he starts a business and he works for 30 years and never fishes and then he sells the business and then spends his retirement fishing. It's like he got into this because he loved fishing, didn't fish for 30 years because he's running the business. It's like me. I feel like I am the fisherman. Like I was started off DJing. I started this company where I didn't get to really have fun in it. And then now I'm back DJing again with the HFDs.
Yeah, we love
It's like
those
all I
H
wanna do. All I wanna do.
I think there's a world we can get to where you're just HFD, um, ATT all the time.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I'm really glad that you are a part of the business with me and you make everything go so much better, and, I really appreciate you.
Likewise, Mary. I mean, I really do think that the whole magic is, again, this confluence of your brain and intention and, desire to run something that really does employ these amazing, sort of talented people that, like you
Weirdos?
say, yeah, weirdos or people who just, a 9 to 5 was not, the world that they were going to thrive in, and giving, a real platform, profession, something that people could do that can be all the things. Like when I say to people on our sales calls, like, the uh, doing, improvisation and being obsessed with music and being on the radio, and then this sort of being a wedding DJ was like this, confluence of all of these things that could occur simultaneously and then also be a legitimate way to finance a life. And,
Mhm.
you know, again, when I say to myself, "Does this make sense?" I'm always kind of putting it through that kind of filter. Does this make sense for how we want to operate? I think there's a certain sadness that is as challenging as it is because of all things that you have to overcome in the world, and the expenses that you have to overcome in the world to have something that can both be a real business and be profitable and be an amazing atmosphere, to work in and serve people the way that we wanna serve them, our couples, and, it should be easier to be.
Yeah. And I will say that, like, before, like, all of these technologies that came along that were supposed to make our lives easier, they all made everything harder, and I don't think people have really. Like, I think we get so dazzled by the newness and what we call progress and the things like it's like how AI has been. Everyone's been investing so much in AI and no one is using it, and so they're like Microsoft was doing all this stuff to basically get people to use their AI, the Copilot, and no one was using it. And they were like trying to pay people to use it and no one was using it. So now they have stopped trying to make people try to use their AI because no one wants to use it. It's like, I don't want to outsource that much of my brain. Like the more you outsource it, the less your brain works and then it's gone. So I don't know. I would really love to return to a, Luddite, fuck the internet.
The pendulum, she is swinging,
Hmm.
be cool to have some balance, but we'll see if we ever get there.
Well, this is the last show that we're recording in 2025.
Bullshit. That's true, but blows my mind. That's all.
That we're at the end of 2025. I can't get out of this year fast enough. All right, Melissa. Well, it was a great conversation. Us kind of tying up our postmortem on the year. Answer is that capitalism sucks, is basically. But to everybody else, thanks so much for tuning in. And a special thanks to Melissa Riddle
Always happy to be here.
for being my number 2 and my number 1. It's a Fibonacci sequence. All right, guys. Peace out. Ooh,
Peace.
ooh.
Ow, ow.
Thanks for listening to All Up in My Lady Business with me, Mary Nisi. We'd love for you to like, review, subscribe, follow us at All Up in My Lady Business on the gram. And if you're a female identifying person and you want to dance, you can follow. I mean, everybody can follow it, but if you want to be a part of the magic at Hot Flash Dance Party, sign up for the mailing list to find out where our next party is going to be. And if you are looking for a DJ in the Chicagoland area or anywhere else, money's the same color everywhere. Fly us out. ToastandJamDJs.com has the best. And listen to my radio show. I have a radio show on Chirp Radio at chirpradio.org. And that's Mondays, every Monday from 12 until 3 p.m. CST. Today's episode is produced by Shiraz Dada. Theme song composed and performed by, you guessed it, Shiraz Dada. All right, guys. Peace out.